Well, hello there. So, welcome back, and you can tell that I'm in a different location today, and that is because my bookshelf is a mess. Now, today I'm going to be talking about something very near and dear to my heart that I love very much, and that is Marvel. Now, of course, Infinity War just came out in the last few weeks and such, so I decided what better way to honor the legacy of the Marvel Cinematic Universe than counting down my favorite Marvel movies. I got this idea from Natasha from Tashopolis. I think it'll tell you guys a lot about me. So without further ado, number 18 is The Incredible Hulk. I actually have not seen The Incredible Hulk. I don't know why. I should probably check it out. Since I haven't seen it, I don't want to rank it any higher because I just think that's unfair to all the movies that I have seen. Number 17 on my list is actually Thor: A Dark World. I wasn't a huge Thor fan to start with. If I could go the rest of my life not having to watch it again, I'd be fine. I really liked Loki's character arc in that movie. I did think that that was a really cool part of it, and that's probably what was the most enjoyable for me. But on the whole, I could live without it. Number 16 on my list might be surprising. That is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I was just a little let down by this movie. I thought the first one was so good, and this second one was just a bit of a letdown for me. I was kind of like, okay, so we go to Ego, what now? And it definitely did deliver one of the most kind of moments for me. It broke my heart to put that tumor in her head. The whole theater, man, if you remember watching that movie, you can remember everyone going and never wanting to fight someone so bad than in that moment. Number 15 on my list might come as a surprise, but that is Age of Ultron. I just wasn't a huge fan of it. I really enjoyed it and things like that, but it was one of those movies where I just felt like there was so much action, and I was like, okay, that's just not my vibe, man. It didn't give me any crazy strong, like, feelings or anything like that. But it just is kind of one of those that falls to the back of my head and isn't on my must-watch list. Number 14 is Iron Man 3. This is a movie that I have a distinct memory of seeing in theaters. I look back on that movie with fond memories. I realize it's more the memories that made it enjoyable for me because it was kind of confusing. If you go back and watch it and you're like, I just don't think it was the strongest of the three movies. That said, I did enjoy some of the exploration of Tony's character and his relationships. Number 13 isn't a crazy surprise, but it's actually Ant-Man. I enjoyed Ant-Man. It was a very funny movie. I think Paul Rudd is fantastic. It was a movie that I really enjoyed, and I thought it was really fun to see something a little more lighthearted. Number 12 is another one that might surprise people a bit, and that is Captain America: Civil War. I was really pumped for this movie. That said, I wasn't let down by it. There was just a lot that they were trying to fit in. What irked me the most was just the ending. For me, it was just a little foggy as far as what they were trying to exactly say, but in general, I was more disappointed with how they chose to go about this story than I was the actual movie. Number 11 is Thor. Like I said, I was never a huge Thor fan, but I did like this first movie. I'm a sucker for a good origin story, and I thought they did do a nice job with Thor. I love seeing the way they developed the relationship with Jane, and Darcy is one of the best characters. I adore her. I think that it really told us a lot about their character more so than some other origin stories. It really shows you how much of a kind of stuck-up and selfish guy he really was before he kind of got this, like, knock knock, Thor, hello. And I thought that was really special. It was also kind of our introduction to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Phil Coulson. Love that guy. And so I think that all those little elements made it something that was very, very special and very unique. And you also got to see a new world. That was the first time they went to a new planet. You got to see Asgard and Heimdall and all of this incredible stuff. And I think that's so special, and that's part of what makes it one of my favorites. Number 10 for me is a bit of a surprise, and that is Doctor Strange. I loved Doctor Strange for reasons similar to Thor, how they developed his character from this egotistical and very selfish person into a self-sacrificing and still very stubborn person. I was also just really interested to see how they were going to explore the magic and the mystic arts, and I think they did a really awesome job with it. I also love that it introduces you to the Time Stone, because that is so important, because as we have said, everything is leading up to Infinity War. Number 9 on my list is Iron Man 2. I enjoyed the exploration of the fun that Tony Stark got to have with Iron Man. It wasn't, he understood what his role now was, and you got to see how he played with that. And part of what made it so cool was the introduction of Natasha Romanoff, who is, as we all know, one of the coolest. And I think that's a lot of what made it very fun, was just seeing new characters be introduced. It's one that falls very perfectly, as it does, number 9, right in the middle. Number 8 on my list is The Avengers. You just remember being so excited and just wondering, how are they gonna do this? How are they gonna put 7 characters together in one movie? That's gonna be hard. It was so fun to see how they were going to intertwine all of these people. It really set the standard for what any of the following movies would have to meet. Number 7 on my list is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and that is because of their exploration of the galaxy. And you finally get to see characters that aren't humans or Asgardians in a movie and playing big roles. So much more than I thought it was gonna be. There's such a lightheartedness but depth to it at the same time, and I think it's a perfect example of the power of music in film production. Gets you pumped to see, okay, what's happening next? What's going on? Number 6 is Captain America: The First Avenger. It has a very special place in my heart. I love the simplicity of it. I've never been the biggest Captain America fan. Steve Rogers specifically isn't necessarily my favorite part of the movie. I watched The First Avenger for the story, not for Captain America. I love how you get to see him become Captain America. I watched this movie to see the story, not to see Captain America. Number 5 on my list is Iron Man. And this is for almost the opposite reason of Captain America. I watched that movie for Tony Stark. I watched to see how they develop and introduce that character. That character is what makes the movie for me. I love Tony Stark. I love Iron Man. It set the tone for what the next who knows how many years will be. It gave you the classic character with the perfect casting, a genius development and storyline that wasn't too complicated just yet, but still had enough to make you want more. It's a little treasure in my heart. Number 4 on my list is Black Panther. This movie, whoa. I love diversity. Black Panther was the first mainstream black superhero in comics, and they finally made a movie in 2018. It had such a hype and energy around it from his introduction in Civil War. I remember being in the theater and everyone is so excited because it's like, hey, people are finally getting to see themselves represented on screen, and I think that is awesome. And for me, that's a part of what made it so special. But then I go back and watch it as well, and I'm like, this is also just a really, really good movie. Culture was such a big part of the storyline. I think that was so important. In my mind, that's what really separated it from just a cool superhero movie. So number 3 on my list is Thor Ragnarok. I feel like no one was expecting this. It's mind-blowing how impactful just a creative change can be. In my opinion, it is the perfect example for what a sequel needs to be. And this movie had it all. The humor in this movie, it was so well done, so perfectly timed. It fit my humor. I have a very stupid sense of humor. You don't expect to feel so many deep emotions and things like that because it doesn't seem like a very deep movie. You see such a beautiful relationship develop between Thor and Loki. You finally see exactly what they mean to one another. I think that Hela is an awesome character, and of course the destruction of Mjolnir and the introduction of Thor as really the god of thunder was so cool. And it really showed you who he is, because you think back on that first Thor movie and it was like, well, if you're worthy, you can wield the hammer, but that hammer does not change what powers he has, it just changes his control. That paired with the color and spectacle and Jeff Goldblum and soundtrack made for a thoroughly enjoyable and one of my favorite Marvel movies. So number 2 on my list is Spider-Man: Homecoming. I am a huge Spider-Man fan, and that's probably the biggest reason why this is my number 2. The character has meant so much to me for years and years and years, and I could spend forever just talking about Spider-Man. I of course knew Spider-Man as Tobey Maguire and then as Andrew Garfield, but what I loved about Homecoming and what I love about Tom Holland is the youth and vibrancy and spunk that he brings to the character. He really is a modern day teenage kid. I thoroughly enjoy seeing how he takes on that mantle and how he plays with the idea that with great power comes great responsibility. The reason it's probably one of my favorites is simply because I love Spider-Man. I always will, and this movie just hit a lot of checkboxes for me, so I can't complain. Now, my favorite movie, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It is the best Marvel movie, in my opinion. It is so good. As I said, big Bucky Barnes fan. But the way they have written all the characters in that movie and all of their interactions is so complex and brilliant. It is action-packed and things like that. It has some of the best action sequences, I think, in the MCU. And while it has all that, it also has a lot of character to it. You see a lot of character development, and in my opinion, of course, that's always one of the most important things, that plot development, etc., etc. Not only a great movie, but a great villain is when there is something sympathetic about them. And you get to see how Steve is interacting with life in the modern era. How he's gonna handle these new relationships, especially with Sam Wilson and Natasha. I don't even have words to describe it. It's just one where in your gut, you're just like, ah, this is fantastic. So that is my ranking of every movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Please let me know what some of your favorites are, or what some of your least favorites are. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more from me. I would love to see more of you. Check out all my social medias and the links below. Don't worry about what's gonna happen next. It's all good. Everything's gonna be fine and we're all gonna die.